There's one thing that I have to get out of the way. I think everybody knows about it, but just in case there's anything, I'll clear the tables before I get started. So, any questions? That's me. In another life, I think everybody's asked me about it in the past at some point, somehow, somewhere. But we'll just start right there.
So, this is my 32nd lecture in residency. I counted them. I have vivid memories of first year, where we were lecturing every 3 weeks to each other. And it was just me, Leaf, Sarah, and Dr. Matisse.
4 years ago, we came here and nobody knew who we were. And there was a lot of animosity or resistance, I guess you could say, in having a residency program.
I'll just tell you guys all that I was not one of those who wanted to be an emergency physician from the womb. I had many other aspirations while growing up. So the first one that I can ever remember wanting to be, the first thing, was a hairdresser. I don't know why, but I wanted to be a hairdresser. The next thing I remember, I wanted to be a cashier. And there is a story behind this. In New Hampshire growing up, in the early 80s, that's how old I am, they didn't have scanners. So you had to push all the numbers from the barcode in. And I used to go to Kmart, was our only department store that was around us. So we would go to Kmart, and these girls with like the big fluff hairdo of the 80s would be there with their fake fingernails, and they weren't even looking at the thing, putting in the barcode. I thought that was amazing.
So the close a young man between the ages of 18 and 24-ish go to the bush. And they go to the bush to become men. And the women do it too. The women, it's slightly different because women don't have to get circumcised. But the men go to get circumcised. And it's a... I have mixed emotions on this tradition. In some regard, it's a terrible tradition. In 2012, over 8,000 of these young men died in the bush. Because of multiple things, but mainly because of dehydration. But the part I like is the fact that they go to grow up, and they go there to put away their childhood. And before they go, they take their wardrobe and box it up, and they put it away, and they never put on a piece of clothing again that they've worn prior to going to the bush.
I remember the day that I was sitting in our emergency department. And I looked at Dr. Matisse, and we just started, and he had that big grin on his face, and he goes, "You've got 1,459 days left. How do you feel?" So I just felt like an elephant had just sat on me when I realized that, but it's gone by quick.
But the real reason I initially wanted to get into emergency medicine was because every time I Googled emergency medicine, these pictures came up. And I knew I wanted to do something that was exciting and that you were always working and making a difference. And I saw these pictures and I was like, that's making a difference. I could not sit around, telling people what to do, how to eat, take their medicine, stop smoking all day just to do it again on their next appointment. I wanted to be doing something. And when I saw these, I said, that's what I want to do. So after doing a few shifts in the ER and not even running once, I might have been a little disappointed, but I was in love, so I didn't change that aspiration.
And I think there are phenomenal analogies with going to the bush, with coming to residency. I thought I've been to the bush multiple times in my life. Until I came to residency, and I think that coming to residency was going to the bush for me. I'm thrilled that I didn't get circumcised while here.
So one day, a buddy of mine called me up and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, nothing." And he's like, "Let's do something." I was like, "All right." He's like, "What should we do?" I was like, "Let's go wedding crash." That sounds fun. And this is actually before the movie Wedding Crashers came out. So We didn't do what y'all are thinking we were doing. If y'all had seen the movie, we just went to go have a good time. So here's us, crashing our first wedding. This was hilarious.
That's hilarious.
This was in Fort Lauderdale. Let me just. What's that?
It's a cake.
I know, right? It was terrible.
And then I don't know if this was a hazing experiment or what, but these are the flags that hang on the light posts around UCF real high up there. Somehow, one night, they got a few of them down, and I got to get one, and they signed it for me. So I thought this was really cool when I was in my undergrad. Probably a felony, but what a nice gift nonetheless.
And the chief complaint was on the nursing triage was 3 penises in my rectum. And I walked into Dr. Matisse, and in classic Dr. Matisse fashion, he said, so why 3? One of the next lessons, eat burritos slower. We had a patient that ended up with a complete occlusion of his left lung, secondary to eating a burrito really fast. It's a complete mystery. So when you're out there, Moe's has amazing. Since then, I've tried the home wrecker like 7 times.
At the end of Hava Nagila, they go, we need 4 strong guys to the center for the cheer dance. And my buddy, and we were looking at each other, and I was like, good. Yeah. So I walk over there, and they have the couples, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the chair dance, but they face opposite of each other. And then 4 guys literally pick up their chairs and parade them around the room. Well, I was one of the guys who picked up the chair. I bend over and I've got one leg of the chair, and I'm looking at the other guys, and they're kind of like looking at me, and I'm just like, acting like I belong, act like I own the place. And then the groom, I think I got a glance at him. He's kind of looked at me. He's kind of like, who's this guy? He's got that look. I don't know who this guy is, but I'm not gonna start asking questions in the middle of my chair dance. So they just went with it.
And we were married in Las Vegas with 80 of our closest friends on May 9th of 2004. So we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary last month. And through the years, we've been through some pretty good times. We've been on many, many fishing and diving trips. We've been sledding and skiing and mountain biking, camping, and we've even swam with the dolphins. And this picture here is in New Hampshire. We were tubing. That's Woody in the front there in the black at about 3:30 in the afternoon. And that's Woody about 3:31 after he hit the first bump. So he really enjoyed that trip, I'm sure.
I found that when I met this person, when I had been so committed in my life to doing everything I possibly could that was fun, all of a sudden I found myself committed to doing everything I could to make my life better and more effective and more efficient and more meaningful. And she didn't ask me to do that. When she met me, I was on track to be a high school choir teacher, perform in musical theater or opera, run a recording studio. I don't know what she was marrying into. And she jokes and reminds me, hey, look, I didn't marry a doctor. I married someone that was going to be poor and that was going to figure out how to provide. But when I would be around her, I all of a sudden, and this happened subconsciously, it wasn't until years later that I look back and realize from the moment I met her that I've wanted my life to be dramatically different. And I don't know, I can't pinpoint why she makes me do that, but she does. And again, I'll be eternally grateful that she has done that.
Meeting my wife. And she actually got wind of the Wedding Crashers before she ever met me. But anyway, she gave me a chance. So our first date, we went and had golf balls. I know, I'm Mr. Romantic. I actually, was a creative date kind of guy. But, I was getting in my 30s, I was kind of getting burned out. Let's just keep it simple. Let's see if she can hit a golf ball, see if she's got some coordination, and then we'll go from there. So that's her. She charmed me with her little golf dance.
But she's my hero. See? But I will talk about the 2 dates there. July 30th, 2009. That's the day she died of pneumonia. She had advanced dementia at the time as well, but she died of pneumonia. And that was actually 3 days before I was scheduled to start my rotation here. So this rotation, as a medical student, was pretty difficult for me, both emotionally, and it was my first ever emergency medicine rotation. The first experience I ever had in emergency medicine was here. So, and then the first date there, the date of her birth, June 18th, 1914, I think it's rather ironic that it would have been her 100th birthday that we'll be graduating. So she'll be smiling down, I'm sure.
And she was my grandma. And she is one of the most special people I've ever met. She has a phenomenal way about her. When you're around my grandma, you think you are the most interesting person she's ever met. And then my grandma died. While I was on shift. She didn't die while I was on shift. She fell down a flight of stairs, and they found her at the bottom of the stairs. My grandpa found her at the bottom of the stairs, and she'd been there all night long. One of my favorite people on the planet. And she was so healthy. She was 89 and so spry, and her mind was so alert. And she'd had shingles. That was basically the only thing she'd ever had wrong with her. I was expecting her to live another 10 years. I was supposed to be her doctor when I finished. I was supposed to take care of her, and I was supposed to keep her from dying. And I got a text from my dad, and I had about 4 hours left in the shift. And it said, Morg, I hate to tell you this, but your grandma took a fall down the flight of stairs, and she's had a lot of bleeding in her brain. She has a skull fracture. She's been intubated. She's on a ventilator. She has a clavicle fracture and a humerus fracture and a pelvic fracture. She took a bad fall, and they don't think she's going to make it. And I got that news with about 4 hours left in my shift. And in those next 4 hours, I had a STEMI, I had a massive GI bleed, and I had a super septic little kid come in those next 4 hours. And I didn't cry. I'm not much of a crier. I didn't cry at that moment. For those next 4 hours, I couldn't stop thinking about that lesson. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I said, okay, I've got to leave this at the door. And it took everything in me to put that at the door.
We can probably all think of times in our lives when we have encountered naysayers who told us goals were not possible. When I was an undergrad at Stanford, my pre-med advisor told me that he didn't think I had what it took to be a doctor. Fortunately, I was smart enough to ignore his defeating message, and I found a way to work around him, work harder, and get into med school. My experience reminded me of the fable of the crab, fable of the bucket of crabs. You see, the fable says that some people are like crabs in a shallow bucket. When one crab manages to get a claw up to get out of the bucket and to escape, the other crabs inevitably grab him and pull him back down to the bottom. So eventually, no one ever gets out of the bucket, and you don't have to cover the bucket because they will all continue to perpetually pull each other down. In this picture, you can see this poor guy getting kept down by this one. And I looked at a lot of different pictures on the internet, and it's amazing how true it is. When you see a bucket of crabs, they're all like grabbing each other and all keeping each other down. It's fascinating. So we call it the crab mentality. So on the internet, I discovered an account of at least one species of crab that are able to escape the bucket because they hold on to each other and form a living ladder. If I reach the rim of the bucket, I would want to hold on with one hand while offering a helping hand to those who would help maintain the ladder, rather than pull me down into the realm of stagnation and unfulfilled potential.
There are not words to express my gratitude for all the heart and soul that Dr. Matisse has put into putting this group right here together, and for giving me the opportunity to be part of it. I'm not sure why he decided to give me a chance. I was pretty dumb in my 4th year of medical school. I had never had emergency medicine before here. My board scores were barely average, and I could not, for the life of me, do the Dr. Matisse presentation. I just couldn't do it. So today we have a great group of support staff and core faculty who I'm very grateful for. But in the beginning it was just Dr. Matisse and us. And I know you guys have heard forever that everything was an uphill battle, everything was harder for us, but truly everything was. Between track changes in the ER, setting up our rotations, and just general acceptance within the hospital. Things were not easy, and I do appreciate Dr. Matisse for not giving up on us. He didn't have to do what he did. And then speaking of us, I just want to tell you guys that I'm so proud to be here, part of this group. Like the unique crab that Leaf talked about, that actually help each other climb up the side of the barrel. We perform as a team, and we're competitive a lot, but I know at any moment, if any one of us needed help, every other one of us would drop everything we're doing. So I haven't been to another residency, but I hear that's not the norm.
When we all arrived here, we were all strangers. We didn't know each other. We were strangers to each other. But during residency, we realized that in strangers, we can find family. Our lives will forever be intertwined together through our training. Finally, I would like to thank Dr. Matisse, his unwavering faith in this team, you guys, us, and unconditional support and encouragement. He has led us to where we will stand in 1 month, our graduation. Dr. Matisse didn't just give us wings. He has taught us how to fly, and for that I am forever indebted to him and grateful. I will miss you all. Thank you.
You're phenomenal ER doctors. And I love all of you, and I will miss you like crazy, and I'm sorry I'm leaving. But you've changed my life. You've taught me that not only can I do hard things, I can do impossible things. And the things that I have learned while I've been with you people will stay with me forever. And they have left an imprint in me so big that I will be a changed person forever because of you guys, because of what I've had the pleasure of doing with you guys. It's been phenomenal. It's been more than I could have ever hoped. And I'll miss you guys a lot. Thank you.
We, as a program, will be less when the three of you leave. I mean, that breaks my heart. But I know the rest of the folks in the room, the four that will come, will do their best, our collective best, to never replace you, but to live on in your memory. There's going to be a time in 4 years when no one will know you but the three of us. And that really does break my heart. It has to be, that's life. So thank you.
Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Time grabs you by the wrist, directs you where to go. So make the best of this test and don't ask why. It's not a question but a lesson learned in time. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. So take the photographs and still frames in your mind, hanging on a shelf in good health and good time. Tattoos of memories and dead skin on trial. For what it's worth, it was worth all the while. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.